I am Emmanuel Filteau, creator of Tales from the Interface, and you're listening to True North Country Comics Podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book creators and supporters. It's April 23rd, 2021. I'm John Swinimer. If you want to drop me a line, you can contact me at john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. On this episode, I chat with Emmanuel Filteau about Tales from the Interface. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. It's also available on the True North Country Comics channel on YouTube. I invite you to like and subscribe. Emmanuel is based in Montreal and has been independently publishing Tales from the Interface since 2015 and his own comics since 1997. He's published in numerous anthologies and magazines. Tales from the Interface is a truly independent project. As a solo creator, Emmanuel takes pride in the singular expression of art as a form of communication and describes his comic as a big part of how he talks to the world. Tales from the Interface is described as a dystopian megalopolis, a harsh, violent city where citizens get slaughtered at the first sign of unruliness by the Robopaxes, nightmarish, Lovecraftian, tentacular monsters. This grimful backdrop is punctuated with a good dose of dark humor provided by the often clueless inhabitants of the city. And so, without further ado, here's my chat with Emmanuel Filteau about Tales from the Interface. So, Emmanuel Filteau, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you for having me.
Sure, appreciate your time. What I normally do to start off the interview is ask the creator about their first comic book. So I'm wondering if you remember, what was the first comic book that you read?
Yeah, well, we had a fairly large library at my parents' place, and it was mostly French European comics. So you'd see Asterix or Tintin or Lucky Luke.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So those kind of guys. Yeah. I had a few superhero comic, but it was very small. What we just had Héritage. They had a French version of translation of all those. Basic Avengers and all those stuff. So I had a few of those.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I was going to ask you, I don't know if you remember this show. You're probably too young for it, but there was a Captain Harlock TV show, which is called Albator.
Yeah.
You remember that one?
Yeah, for sure. I was very young. That's true. Yeah. And I because when I started getting back into it, it was very foggy, the memories of it. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I started to watch them over again, and I rewatched the whole series, and it was so familiar, I felt I was home.
I had to pick up the DVD set, so I have that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Remember. Yeah. So speaking of influences, who influences your work today?
I think currently the artist I look more towards to is probably Geoff Darrow. I really enjoy his work. I've been enjoying what's been coming out of Shaolin Cowboy. So probably my biggest influence at the moment. I've been a huge fan of Moebius for years and years. I'm trying to branch out. I've read so many comics over the years. As a teenager, I was into manga like most teenagers, right? So I dove in Dragon Ball and those kind of things. But also, I used to love to go to the public library and pick up all those heavy metal, like Metal, all those, like all the friends of Moebius, so the Drouillet and who else was there? All those guys from the 70s who used to do psychedelic science fiction.
Right, yeah.
So I really enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, lots of good stuff. I was actually checking out your Kickstarter page and looking at your video you did, and behind you in your office there, it's just tremendous, all the different influences you have. So it's there's a lot there.
Yeah, and I try to find weird stuff that sometimes I think a lot of people might find boring, but I find those little gems inside that I really get into, like some weird B-series movies, and then I say, oh, this character is really cool. He has this eye patch that really stands out. So
sure.
You find these little gems in those dark places.
Yeah, Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, we're here talking about your latest project, Tales from the Interface #3. So I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about it, maybe the origins of the project too.
Yeah, so I probably started thinking about it in my 20s with my college friends. We just having beers and talking philosophy and imagining what a future society might be like. So we had a lot of discussions about that, and I decided to put it all to paper. And I had so much stuff that I tried to do a novel out of it. But I'm more of an artist than a writer. The best way for me to express myself was through drawing, but I was a bit scared of the scope of it at the beginning. So I decided to kind of split into short story, and that was the first book. And then in the second and third, I kind of went more into the main storyline of that kind of world that I built. So as I felt more confident that I could take the project through. So I'm planning a 5-book.
Okay. Now I see on your Kickstarter, it's your sort of tagline is Cookies, Blood, and Mayhem. Can you explain that a bit more?
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to make a teaser out of it. I'm very influenced by, like as I said, like maybe more B series or 70s movies. So I enjoyed the Sour and Green. So Cookies is a bit about that.
Right.
So I won't say more than that.
Right.
So people know they know.
Yeah, no spoilers there. Yeah. Very good.
And then, because this issue happens because to maybe take people back a little bit, it's the story is really a lot about virtual reality.
Oh,
so
okay.
There is the virtual world and there is the real world, and the characters inside, they kind of visit different worlds, and these different worlds are little stories within the main stories. The issue #3 is really only in the real world, and you can see that dystopian future city, what it looks like, and how people live inside it, and how it's a violent world. It's a very authoritarian. That's the mayhem that happens because they want to uphold the law. That's another of my influence, right? I mentioned on the page, I really like Judge Dredd. So like that kind of police state, I wanted to get a little bit of that into it. So that's the mayhem is a little bit about that because they're trying to control people. So it's the fight between the system and people trying to just live through that world.
Right. I've asked this question of others, during this pandemic that we're going through, mostly for creators of horror comics. And I'm wondering, would you say that your comic is a reflection or an outlet for what we're going through right now in this pandemic?
Not really. I wouldn't say so because it's so planned up. I've been planning this story for a very long time. So I'm not changing the scenario because of the pandemic.
No, I mean, it's not a direct correlation, but sometimes people use creative works as an outlet, let's say, to sort of not directly translate, but sometimes use it as a reflection of the times that we're going through. Like you're talking about a dystopian future, you're talking about perhaps Lovecraftian type of monsters. Do you think that's a sort of a way of expressing what we're going through now?
Not directly. To me, I deplore what some people are living through, but as an artist, and I can focus a lot more on my work by being at home. I don't have to, because I have a day job to pay for all this fun comic stuff. So
sure.
Now, I can spend a lot more time at home since I don't have to commute so much and work on my comics. So, I know I don't want to sound opportunistic, but it's been good for my kind of lifestyle. I've been able to put a lot into it, more energy, I think, because of the situation, and I think it's a shame what's happening, but we're gonna get through it.
Sure. Now, I want to switch gears a bit and talk about your creative process. You've mentioned that you are the sole creator of your series. I'm wondering if you could talk me through what is the workflow from coming up with initial storyline, narrative, to the finished product. How do you go through that?
Usually I start up with notes. I have a note application on my phone. So whenever I have an idea, I just write it down there. That's really the first step for me. And then I take those notes into Scrivener, which is a script writing program, and kind of organize them there. It's kind of a card-based system, so you can, move ideas around, reorganize your stories, and then I build my books in there. So I wrote the entire script in that program, and then I take that script and I just make a document, and I put the text into the pages. So I kind of built my script into 24 pages chapters, and then I build that into a ClipPaint Studio file. So I will put all my my narration inside, and then I draw on top of that. And from that point on, I see, does the story flow well? Does it work? Do I need to change anything? I do a lot of edit at that point on the script as well. I really try to make it like in that rough stage, like trying to make the story flow as best as I can, and then I just layer up on that. So now that I have the rough one, I would do a more advanced drawing on top, more advanced, until ink, and then color until I have something finished. So I really work in layers. I don't work on one page finished, second page finished. I really work on putting the base coat, another coat, another coat, another coat until I'm satisfied with the result.
And you're using Clip Studio the entire time?
As soon as my script is finished, yeah.
Ah, very good. And I have talked to some creators who've used it as an alternative to our other applications, and they're very happy with it. I guess you can get everything you need out of that one application.
Yeah, pretty much. You can, because you have pages inside, so you can lay out your whole. It's not like Photoshop where you have to. Like my first book was built in Photoshop, but then you have to have one PSD per page. It's kind of annoying. So now I have like a kind of a directory built in where you can see all the page and all the spreads side by sides. So it's really well made. And then when I'm done, I export that into PSDs and I put it in InDesign for the final book.
Oh, very good. Now, I was just checking out Twitter today, and Riley Rospo, who works on Harley Quinn, was talking about how he listens to music when he creates. And I'm wondering if you have a set list that you use when you're creating Tales from the Interface.
Oh, that's a good question. I have so many different music I like. I actually like old French music, like chanson. But I vary. I will go from that to some John Carpenter to country music to whatever. I really, really vary. I like to change things up. I don't like to keep on the same thing all the time. I'm like that, I like to never do the same thing twice.
Does the music inspire you, or is it there just as a background to just say, that you're not completely alone in this environment when you're creating?
A little both, I would say.
Okay.
For sure, yeah. It is that's one thing, and the loneliness of it. It can be hard. So having like something that happens in the background. Sometimes, I will put a old Star Trek show in the background, just so something's happening there. I've seen it 100 times, so I don't have to concentrate on it. It's just there, the familiar voices. So that's something I like to do as well, just to have something there, because, one book takes me 2 years. It's really a long time between, me coming out with a new book and, connecting with fans again. So, I feel sometimes like I'm in the opening of a desert that I need to cross before I bring back my next thing,
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're working on number 3 now, or it's just about to come out? You mentioned that it will be a 5-issue project?
Yeah, the 3 is entirely finished.
Okay.
I finished the last touches like a week ago, probably. I always a million time check me. I'm sure I'm going to read it again before and maybe adjust some stuff, but it is entirely done. I'm not planning to do anything more with it. I actually started on the 4th now, so just putting in the script into ClipPaint, and then I'll start to put the pages in, look how it feels, and if I need to change anything to the story.
So I presume this is a full-time project for you. You're totally devoted to this. There's no other side projects that you have on the go.
Oh, it's impossible for me to take on anything else. At the moment, I'm doing maybe 3 hours per day for that. The rest is my job and family.
Right. Understood. Yeah, it definitely shows in the work that you're doing. You're dedicating it totally to this, so that makes perfect sense. Good stuff. So, Emmanuel, I'm wondering where people can find out about you online. Where do you recommend they go to find out more about Tales from the Interface?
I would say Instagram is a good place because I put a lot of teaser images from what I'm working on. Also, a good place to check would be my YouTube channel. It's not very big, but every Saturday I do a live show and I share my screen. I answer any question people have, and they can see what I'm up to at the moment. Sometimes I do fan art. Sometimes I just work on my comic, depending on what's happening at the moment.
And what's the name of that YouTube channel?
It's my name without any just Emmanuel Filteau in one word.
Thanks to Emmanuel for the chat. You can discover more about Emmanuel on Twitter at Incorporate, that's INKORPORATE, and on Instagram at instagram.com/ink_orporate, ORPORATE. You can see Emmanuel at work on his YouTube channel, youtube.com, Emmanuel Filteau. And you can discover more about Tales from the Interface on Kickstarter. Thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts. And please leave a good rating. Also check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website and follow along on Twitter at True North Comics. True North Country Comics is now on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel. Please send your feedback to John at TrueNorthCountryComics.com. Thanks again for listening, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2021.